Hello guys, and welcome to this festive edition of my new video, which is going to be concentrating on holy paladins. I've done another video like this about restoration shamans, about how they play. So this video is going to be an entry level to new players who are looking to get a good or at least a decent understanding of what holy paladin is about. So basically this video is aimed at players who kind of would like to get into holy paladins. I kind of would like to see what their healing is like. I'm not sure if I should start a holy paladin. I'm not sure how they're doing in 5 months and raids, what type of healing they do. So hopefully after watching this video you'll have a better understanding of what holy paladin is about in patch 8.1, or more specifically BfA Azeroth. So first of all, this is going to be including things like the good things, the bad things, raid preview, 5-man preview, my overall thoughts. Of course, this is a lot of the information here is personal opinion. So keep that in mind, guys. It's okay to disagree or agree. Leave comments below if you feel like I mentioned all the things or maybe I missed out on something. But first of all, we'll have a look at some of the raiding holy paladin overview. So this is somewhat of a default build for a raiding holy paladin. You have like bestowed fate, rule of law, which is absolutely great. I actually love rule of law so much that I miss it on all of my other healing characters. It increases the range of your heals and also makes your mastery a bit easier to deal with in terms of maybe you're not grouped up with melee, maybe you're not grouped up with range and you're middle of nowhere, and if you play a holy paladin you'll know that their mastery is all about keeping you stacked. You do more healing the more you stack, or the closer you are to other members, and rule of law allows you to kind of get away with being a little bit further away. I love rule of law so much. It's one of my favorite abilities in tier 30 out of all the healers. Devotion aura again is probably the go-to talent or the go-to aura for progression fights and things like that, but you'll notice that a lot of the holy paladins who look really good on the meters will be using Aura of Mercy because devotion aura doesn't show up on meters. So first of all, there's a big misunderstanding about holy paladins in terms of, are holy paladins good in 5 months of raids? Holy paladins are a very good healer in raids and 5-man situations. A lot of people who watch streams and things like that, they'll be like, hey, holy paladin is the bottom of the HPS, or hey, holy paladin is not doing that much healing in raids. And that is because devotion aura, which when used with Aura of Mastery, you'll notice here when you use Aura Mastery with it, it'll reduce the damage taken by all the party members by 20% for 8 seconds, which is actually really strong if you use it properly. Unfortunately, this damage reduction is not being conveyed on your healing meters, on your SCADA, on your details, or whatever you use. So all of a sudden your main healing cooldown as a holy paladin is not on the healing meters. And I said this at the start of Legion when BfA changes were announced. There is going to be a lot of problems with Aura of Sacrifice being completely changed from Legion into BfA, because you no longer, or your best aura is no longer visible on healing meters, and this is going to be causing problems in pugs. This is going to cause a problem in the perception of holy paladins, because imagine tranquility not being shown for resto druids. Imagine that not being shown on healing meters. There will be no healing to be shown at all. So you have to consider, like, any good raid leader or any good pug leader to that extent will know that devotion aura has a very good use. And even though it doesn't show on healing meters, it is still a very good progression aura to be used for, you know, progression fights and things like that. And for raids you have like Judgment of Light, which again means that you will be using your judgment similarly on cooldown, or if you have a weak aura to track how many charges you have. Just another thing to keep track of as a holy paladin, which I feel holy paladins don't have that much things to track in raiding scenarios anyways. So I feel this is kind of a fun, you know, addition to the rotation. Then you have a Ventral Crusader, which is arguably the only new thing that has happened since Legion coming into BfA, and a Ventral Crusader is great. It's something completely new. Well, it was a PvP talent before, but it's completely new for the PvE players. So you basically use this, you have to make sure that you're close to the boss or anyone that you can hit, and Crusader Strike and Judgment is going to heal up to 3 injured allies. So what that means, also the cooldown for them is reduced as well. So that what that means is that you want to do judgments, you want to use Crusader Strikes, and all of a sudden it's going to be like a smart heal. You don't have to worry about anything. It's going to heal the people that needs to be healed. It is insanely strong to an extent that is really powerful and can account for a big portion of your healing in raid situations. the funny bit about Avenging Crusader is that it does not work with your mastery. So no matter how close you are to every member of the group, once you hit your judgments, once you hit your Crusader strikes, the healing that Avenging Crusader is going to do is not going to be affected by mastery. So all of a sudden, your secondary stat, mastery, is completely useless during those Avenging Crusader windows, which kind of shifts mastery to being one of the worst stats when you pick Avenging Crusader. So it's kind of an interesting choice. Now, if you into min-maxing your characters, you probably will be like, okay, I'm using Avenging Crusader, I probably don't want to have as much mastery, or to an extent, I'm not using Avenging Crusader, I want to have a bit more mastery. So all of a sudden there is some depth to gearing your Holy Paladin as well, especially if you choose Avenging Crusader. And for raiding situations, Beacon of Fate is the #1 choice to go. This is why Holy Paladins are Holy Paladins. You're able to apply beacons on 2 of the tanks and you're able to heal them. Now, problem with this is that all of a sudden Holy Paladin, there is not a lot of cooldowns to keep track of. If you played in Legion, you'll notice that all I have is my Aura Mastery, which is a 3-minute cooldown, and then I have my Avenging Crusader, which replaces Wings. So you have 2 cooldowns to keep track of. In Legion, that you also have the the artifact ability, which again wasn't the best, but it was still something to keep track of. So the healing is very similar. You're like this kind of single target cannon. You place beacons on tanks and you kind of heal the raid with, you use Holy Shock on cooldown. You make sure you use your judgments. If you have the specific talent, Judgment of Light selected, you make sure you use your only AoE ability, which is Light of Dawn. Again, the animations in 8.1 are freaking amazing. So Holy Shock, Light of Dawn, Judgments if you have the talent, and then you use your filler abilities, Flash of Light or Holy Light. And again, just like in Legion, your Holy Shock has a chance to proc Infusion of Light, which is going to make your Flash of Light more powerful, or Holy Light cast quicker. So the same concept is there. You're basically a really strong healer in terms of spot healing, because you have the beacons on tanks, you're healing the raid, you're using your AoE abilities and things like that. Now, because in BfA, beacons have been nerfed, you don't really have, tier sets or Azeroth traits that are considered to be good that buff your beacon healing. There's a high chance that if you're doing mythic content and stuff like that and progressing on fights, you will have to directly heal your beacon targets or your tanks. In Legion, that was not really an issue because you had tier sets that buffed your beacon healing to the extreme amount. Your beacons were stronger, and all of a sudden you could just place beacons on tanks and just heal just focus on the raid and never touch tanks ever. But in BfA, it kind of has shifted to an extent where you will focus tanks a bit more. But that's not a big deal, but just something to consider. But overall, in raiding situations, the healing is pretty basic. Again, every healer is quite easy to an extent. Most of the healers are quite easy to get into. It takes a long practice or a good knowledge of the class to really optimize your healer. But in my opinion, I feel if you put in a lot of time into Holy Paladin, especially in raid situations, you can get burned out pretty quickly. Now, I love to hear your comments about this, because I feel at the end of the day, after knowing the basics of Holy Paladin in raid situations, Beacon of Fate is not crazy interactive. You just place beacons on tanks and that's it. I mean, you can time your bestowed fates on tanks and things like that, but it's not the most interactive spell you can use, and outside of that, you don't have that many cooldowns. Again, Avenging Crusader is kind of fun to use. It's really, to an extent, it is fun to use, and I really appreciate that they have added something new. But the loss of Aura of Sacrifice, or at least the loss, they reworked it. I do miss the old overpowered Aura of Sacrifice, which felt really strong. So there are a couple of things that I feel are a little bit negative. If we look at the 5-man situations, I feel Crusader's Might is strong. Rule of Law, again, is really fun, no matter what situation. I feel this to some extent should be a baseline to Holy Paladin class, because I feel it's such a cool ability. Again, doesn't matter here. For 5-mans, you probably will be running Devotion Aura again. Instead of Judgment of Light, you'll probably be going with Holy Avenger, so that's an additional cooldown to keep track of. Holy Avenger is basically going to increase your haste. It's 1.5 minute cooldown, which is quite short. And then in 5-mans, you're probably going to be running Sanctified Rat. Again, in 5-mans, you might not always be able to hit the boss. Sanctified Rat is probably the more preferred option in 5-man situations, and of course Beacon of Virtue and to some extent, I'm going to say this probably multiple times, I prefer my Holy Paladin in 5-man situations much more purely on the fact of Beacon of Virtue. Beacon of Virtue, 15-second cooldown, will affect 4 members of your party, and all the healing that you're going to be doing is going to be converted to everyone else, a percentage of that. So all of a sudden in a 5-man dungeon, you use your Beacon of Virtue, it'll affect 4 targets, and you just heal the target that doesn't have Beacon on them. You heal the target and everyone else is gonna get that healing. So all of a sudden, every 15 seconds you have this huge AoE ability, which again requires you to heal, but it's going to be converted. So it is extremely fun to optimize, because there's a lot of affixes out there to an extent, like bursting, explosive orbs and things like that, which require AoE healing, and 15-second cooldown Beacon of Virtue is it works extremely well with a lot of affixes and makes the healing really strong. But to an extent, I feel that Holy Paladin has been affected by secondary stats the most, to an extent that critical strike, or not even critical strike, getting crits. So if I use my Holy Shock, I have a chance of getting a critical strike. If my Holy Shock crits, I get Infusion of Light, which I mentioned, makes my filler spells, Flashlight and Holy Light, stronger. And I feel if I don't get those crits, my healing is going to suffer a lot, more so than any other healer out there. Because again, Holy Shock gives me this huge buff, Infusion of Light, if it crits. To the same extent that if everyone's like 10% HP in a 5-man dungeon, I'm using my Beacon of Virtue, and I'm using like my Holy Shock, my Flashlight, or whatever, and if those abilities don't crit, the healing that's going to be distributed among the Beacon of Light targets, or Beacon of Virtue targets, is not going to be that great. So all of a sudden, after using my Beacon of Virtue with no crits afterwards, I can feel a little bit like, oh well, it didn't really do that much, and I don't have my Beacon of Virtue. I have to wait until it comes off cooldown to actually do some real healing. I feel that's kind of offset by the cooldowns, because Wings is extremely strong. Wings can be, like, you know, it's a really strong cooldown, and if you're coming into Holy Paladins and you're wondering like, how do I use Wings? Like, the cool concept of Holy Paladins is that Holy Shock can be used offensively and defensively. So you can use Holy Shock to attack a target, or you can use Holy Shock to heal a member. So with Wings, you have an option of, hey, everyone's taking a ton of damage, I'm gonna use Holy Shock on people, I'm gonna use my Beacon of Virtue, I'm gonna heal everyone up in no time. It's going to be extremely strong. Or if you want to provide that super strong burst damage, you can use your Wings, you can use your Holy Avenger, and you can use your Holy Shock offensively. And you have to keep in mind that Judgment has changed from Legion into BfA, because Judgment now, after you use Judgment, it only increases damage of your next ability. In Legion, it used to be for the next couple of seconds, your abilities are going to deal more damage, but in BfA, use Judgment and make sure your next ability is going to be strong. And if you want to do a lot of damage, most likely you'll be using Holy Shock if you want to use it offensively. So all of a sudden, Holy Paladins have this huge burst potential, and on top of that, you also have Consecration, which again provides that AoE damage. So you do have very strong DPS options. Your cooldowns are strong, but at the end of the day, it all depends on the item level. If your Holy Paladin has a lot of critical strike, if your Holy Paladin has a lot of item levels, I feel you're going to crit more. You're going to crit more during Beacon of Virtue windows. So this is why a lot of people are telling, hey, in 8.1 or 8.2, 8.3, when item level is going to be increased, more secondary stats, more crit. More crit means more Holy Shock crits, more Infusion of Light procs, stronger flashlights, faster Holy Lights. So all of a sudden you can see that Holy Paladins have this potential of scaling really well, but it might take a little time, or you might need a lot of gear to do that. So overall, I feel Holy Paladin, again, to me, Holy Paladin is not the same as the Legion. Legion Holy Paladin was extremely fun. I feel Holy Paladins are one of the healers that lost the most when coming into BfA, on top of the global cooldown changes to Wings and Holy Avenger. Does not feel amazing. It feels quite stupid, to be honest. So I do feel that if you played in Legion and you're coming into BfA, your Holy Paladin is not going to feel the same. Again, Ventral Crusader kind of brings it back to that difficulty, or there's more things to use. But if you just started playing BfA, Holy Paladin is a very good choice, especially if you like that direct healing. It's the most reactive healer out there. If you see someone take damage, you heal them. There is not a lot of preparation needed. Of course, there is preparation needed if you really want to time your cooldowns properly, but generally speaking, someone takes damage, you heal them up, and you're good. So if you're into that type of healing where you're a great spot healer, you have amazing instant heals. Holy Shock is one of the best instant healing abilities out there. The synergy that it has with a lot of other spells and talents and things like that is really, really cool. So if you enjoy that type of healing, Holy Paladin is for you. I just fear that maybe in raiding situations, after playing your Holy Paladin for 100 to 300 hours and things like that, it might become a little stale, but the same could be said about a lot of other healers out there. Please let me know how you feel about the Holy Paladins in patch 8.1 or more so in BfA. Let me know, guys. Let me know if you wanna, what's the next healer that I should be doing. Thank you, guys, and I'll see you in my next video.